So, ladies and gentlemen, every day that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to a potential TikTok ban. Now, Biden officially signed a bill that basically moves the potential TikTok ban forward a little bit. And we're going to cover it in this video so that we can be fully informed on exactly what's going on. We're not trying to just base every decision that we make off of headlines out here. Obviously, there's millions of businesses and individuals that rely on TikTok for income. And maybe you're one of those people. Maybe you are someone who is really stressed out about the situation. Now, I have TikTok shop brands. I have a lot of business on TikTok. We run TikTok ads at my company, Akemi, for some of the biggest TikTok shops out there. So trust me, I am very much affected by this potential ban. However, I'll admit it, I'm actually not too stressed out about it. Now, maybe that's naive, maybe it's dumb, but I am taking smart steps to potentially diversify risk here and just reduce the risk of this actually going forward. So let's get into this real quick. I got a couple things I want to pull up and share with you. I just want to make sure that this looks good. Okay. So this is an article by politico.com. It's a little bit different than the Wall Street Journal and, the New York Times and things of that nature that are very politically aligned with the current administration. So I like it. It's a little bit more unbiased. I also got one from Yahoo, basically, which talks about how Biden recently signed this bill in which there's a lot of things, right? Okay, so it's not like he just specifically signed away TikTok to be banned. This is a package for Ukraine and Israel. It's like a whole big thing bundled together, right? And it did get passed. However, you know, the thing is, here's kind of a key thing, right? So in March, the House passed a standalone version of the ban, calling for ByteDance to sell TikTok within 180 days, about which is 6 months. But it seemed uncertain whether the Senate agreed TikTok posed a national threat or not. This happened a year after lawmakers on the House Energy and Commerce Committee brought in TikTok CEO to testify about the platform's ties to China. I don't know if you remember that at all. I didn't make any content around it or reacting content back then. I should have, because this guy really killed it in that Congress hearing. And then, according to the Washington Post, members of Congress and the Biden administration have been working for months to develop this latest bill, and the newest iteration now gives ByteDance 9 months, okay, 9 months, not 6 months, now it's 9 months, to sell the app or face a national ban. The president can also grant a one-time extension of 90 days if ByteDance proves it's on path to divestiture. Now, when would the ban go into effect? It could start in January 2025 or April 2025. That's a long time from now. That's literally an entire year from now if the one time extension is granted. However, legal experts anticipate that with TikTok threatening legal action, the ban could be postponed for even longer. So, this is another very key thing is that TikTok is, kicking and screaming here, right? They're not just going to take this and run with it. They're actually going to fight this because they consider it to be an unconstitutional bill. And here's the thing, guys. I mean, by then, I don't know if you are aware of the presidential elections, but by then, Biden could be out of office. It's actually very possible that Biden doesn't get reelected this year, in which case, this would get delayed even longer. Now, there is the possibility of, let's say, Trump getting in office and banning TikTok. He actually has shown intent in the past that he wants to do that because TikTok poses a national security threat, which I totally understand. I mean, I'm an American. I'm a U.S. citizen, so of course I would not like any sort of national security threat like TikTok to take place. However, at the same time, I think there is. I'm a big fan of just coming together, compromise, right? Like agreements. I think they can, the administration could get creative and figure something out that basically makes everybody happy. Because while TikTok is a national security threat, it's also an incredibly powerful app, right? For a lot of reasons. Obviously, it's pretty addictive. There's a lot of things that are wrong with it. But at the same time, it's shedding light on a lot of information, right? Like there's people go viral. It changes people's lives. New information that maybe is hidden from the public is actually being revealed through TikTok. I mean, I think Twitter also is kind of in that same bandwagon of becoming a sort of free speech app, which is kind of cool. Now, I'm not saying TikTok is a free speech app. Obviously, it's owned by China, a China company. But that's another thing I want to talk about here So here somewhere, it states that TikTok is actually a Beijing-based company, which it probably is. But I also think, or I also heard from some insiders in China who were a part of the TikTok Shop team, the TikTok Shop Asia development team, that it's actually a Singapore company. Like most of the shareholders of ByteDance actually are Singapore-based. So I don't know if it's gonna be too affected by the Chinese party. Like, I don't know if China will, because people said, okay, well, China is gonna block ByteDance from being sold or divesting. But at the same time, I feel like if China doesn't have a say in it, right? If the majority of shareholders are in Singapore, then China doesn't really have a say in that. Of course, I'm sure the Singapore shareholders are going to want to play nice with China and likewise with the US. So, the reason I'm not nervous about this is because through all this information, I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. And maybe I will make a more detailed video on all of this in the future. I have been studying this a bit. And, I've obviously been involved since it does affect my business. But ultimately, I'm just not nervous about it because I see this as a good thing. I actually think it's good to address the national security issues that TikTok poses, while at the same time giving it a fair shot at fixing those issues or, right, like divesting into a US company, creating some sort of agreement that is mutually beneficial for everybody. I think all of those things are good. And I think this is also good for other companies that are watching, right? I think this is also good for Meta. I think, you know, if you are somebody that's already on TikTok, one of the things that you should start doing like today is start reposting all of your content to Instagram. There's no reason not to do that. Short form content goes super far on Instagram Reels and it goes super far on YouTube Shorts, even on Facebook Reels. So use this as a kick in the butt to start divesting your content into other platforms. There's no reason not to do that, especially when the effort you're going to put into reposting your content is literally 1/10 of the effort that it takes to make that content in the first place. So if it takes 1/10 of the effort, but it can give you 10x the reach, I mean, that's an asymmetrical bet right there that you should be making. So that's sort of one of my biggest takes right now in terms of how this will affect people. I think, of course, it would be terrible if TikTok was banned in the US for a lot of brands. I mean, I would obviously be sad. TikTok Shop is like one of the best things that has happened to e-commerce since probably 2020 with the pandemic when everybody went inside and started shopping online like crazy. It's literally just like that, or even more. But at the same time, I do see Meta making efforts to do the same thing with their shops. I see YouTube doing the same thing with their shops. So I don't think there will be no option, right, for short form creators that are already doing well on TikTok Shop to take some of that virality and culture to other platforms. And again, that's assuming that TikTok does get banned. So I'm preparing for the worst, right? It's smart to do that. You don't want to get caught with your pants down. Basically, you're just super sure and confident that TikTok isn't going to get banned, and you don't take any sort of precaution against that, and boom, it gets banned. Like that would suck. So don't do that. But at the same time, don't be so scared, that you don't make any sort of move or that you just stop posting on TikTok altogether. I think that's a terrible mistake to make. I still have a brand, for example, that we recently launched that is printing, right? We're probably going to do 20K this month on the first month of launch because of the power of TikTok Shop. And that's without spending any money on ads. So, I can make more videos about that. I can talk about that further. But what you really need to know is that this is the time to be taking action, right? Don't wait around for this to go through. Again, they mentioned it. It's probably, if it did go through, it would be in April of 2025, which by then there will be a new administration potentially. Maybe not, but maybe so. And with a new administration, I mean, everything could change again, right? Like it could go into another 9-month process. And then, it'll take 3 years for this thing to go through. But in the meantime, you waited all that time to actually take action and capitalize on TikTok and its power and its effect on business, really. So, hopefully that gives you a good summary of how I feel about this and how I'm acting against it. Because again, I do think this is a good thing for everybody, for Americans, for TikTok. Not that it gets banned, but at least that it is being threatened. as to be banned. I think the national security threat is very real, and obviously, I wouldn't want to put any Americans in danger through just because of this app, right? And because it makes money. But at the same time, I do think there is tons of value in it for Americans as well, and for the economy, etc. So, you know, it's not a one sided take here. It's definitely a little bit nuanced. And I think hopefully we'll see. The government is and ByteDance is smart enough to get creative and come up with some sort of agreement. I think they will. Honestly, I'm optimistic. I tend to take the side of optimism while still preparing for the worst. And I think that's what everybody should do. So hopefully that sheds some light on it. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to know some of your opinions. Every time I make these videos on TikTok's ban, I get a lot of really interesting takes from you guys. You guys are all intelligent. You got some good insights into whether or not it is a national security risk, whether or not this is unconstitutional. I really want to know what you think. And yeah, get the community involved. But that's about it. I'm still on vacation, as you can see, and I'm going to be here probably till Thursday or so. So yeah, the videos are a bit different, but the essence is still there, and hopefully you can appreciate that. But yeah, that's about it. Peace.